The smell of fresh paint still clung to the walls when I first walked into what my father called our new beginning. It was a sharp, chemical scent that made my eyes water slightly, mixing with a vanilla candle someone had lit to mask it. The house felt too big, too empty, echoing with every footstep on the hardwood floors that gleamed under the afternoon sunlight, streaming through windows that had no curtains yet. My father stood in the living room with his arm around her, around Patricia, the woman who had somehow convinced him that starting over meant erasing everything we had been before. I was 17 that summer, old enough to see through performance, but young enough that nobody cared what I thought. My younger brother Marcus was only 12, still at that age where he wanted to believe in happy endings, where he thought maybe this could actually work. He stood beside me in the doorway, his backpack still on his shoulders, looking around with wide eyes that held more hope than I could bear to see. The air conditioning hummed loudly, set too cold, making the house feel sterile like a hospital waiting room rather than a home. Patricia smiled at us. That practice smile I had seen her use a dozen times before, the one that never quite reached her eyes. She was younger than my father by almost 15 years, with perfectly highlighted blonde hair that caught the light and skin that looked like she spent more time at the spa than anywhere else. She wore white linen pants and a pale blue blouse, clothes that seemed designed to say she was approachable, soft, maternal. But her perfume was too strong, something floral and expensive that filled the room and made me want to step back outside where the air was honest, even if it was thick with August humidity. "Welcome home," she said, her voice bright and cheerful in a way that felt forced. "I know this is a big change for everyone, but I really think we can make this work. I have so many ideas for your rooms. We can go shopping this weekend. Pick out whatever you want." My father squeezed her shoulder, looking at us with an expression that was part plea, part warning. He had lost weight since Mom died, his face more angular now, his eyes carrying shadows that never quite went away. He wore a polo shirt tucked into khaki pants, trying to look put together, trying to look like a man who had his life under control. But I could see the tension in his jaw, the way his free hand kept clenching and unclenching at his side. "Come on, kids," he said. "Let me show you your rooms." Patricia worked really hard to get everything ready. We followed them up the stairs, our shoes making soft thuds on each step. The banister was smooth and cool under my palm, some kind of dark wood that probably cost more than all the furniture in our old house combined. Marcus stayed close to me, and I could feel his uncertainty radiating off him like heat. The hallway upstairs was long and lined with doors, all of them closed except for two at the end. Patricia pushed open the first door with a flourish, stepping aside so Marcus could see. His room was painted a deep blue, with a new bed that looked enormous, a desk by the window, and shelves already installed on the walls. Everything was new, everything was expensive, and everything was wrong. It looked like a room from a furniture catalog, perfect and impersonal, with none of the posters or books or clutter that had made his old room actually his. "What do you think, buddy?" my father asked, his voice too eager. Marcus walked in slowly, setting his backpack down on the bed. "It is really blue," he said quietly. "We can change it if you do not like it." Patricia said quickly, "This is your space. I want you to love it." But I could see in Marcus's face that he did not love it, that he was already mourning the room he had left behind, the room where Mom used to sit on the edge of his bed and read to him every night, where the walls were covered with his drawings and the carpet had that stain from when he spilled grape juice when he was 6. This room was too clean, too new, too much like starting over when he was not ready to let go. My room was across the hall, painted a soft gray that Patricia probably thought was sophisticated. It had the same catalog perfection, the same expensive emptiness. A queen bed with a white comforter, a dresser with a mirror, a desk with a lamp that looked like it belonged in an office. The window looked out over the backyard, which was mostly just grass and a fence. No trees, no character, nothing that made it feel like a place where life actually happened. "I know it is an adjustment," my father said from the doorway. He had not come all the way into the room, as if he knew he was not quite welcome in this space that was supposed to be mine. "But give it a chance, Lily. Give her a chance. Patricia really wants this to work." I turned to look at him. This man who used to be my hero, who used to know exactly what to say to make everything okay. Did we get a choice? I asked, did anyone ask us if we wanted this? His face tightened, that warning look coming into his eyes. We have talked about this. I know you miss your mother. I miss her too. But life goes on and I need you to try. For me, for Marcus, for all of us. Patricia peered beside him, her hand on his arm, her expression carefully neutral. I know I can never replace your mother, she said, using that soft, understanding voice that made my skin crawl. I am not trying to. I just want us to be a family. That is all. But we already were a family, I said. The three of us. We were doing fine. My father's jaw clenched. We were not doing fine, Lily. We were barely surviving. You were taking care of Marcus more than I was. You were cooking dinner and doing laundry and pretending everything was okay when it was not. You are 17. You should be thinking about college and friends in your future, not raising your little brother. The words hit me like a slap because they were true, and because he had never acknowledged it before, had never thanked me or even seemed to notice how much I had taken on after Mom died. I had been the one getting Marcus to school, helping with his homework, making sure he ate something other than cereal for dinner. I had been the one holding our family together while Dad worked late, and avoided coming home to a house that felt too empty without her. So you replaced us, I said, my voice shaking. You found someone new and decided we should all just move on and pretend like Mom never existed. That is not fair, Patricia said, her voice sharper now, the soft understanding slipping for just a moment. Your father has been through hell. He deserves to be happy. And what about what we deserve? I shot back. Did anyone think about that? Lily, my father said, his voice hard now, the warning clear. That is enough. Go unpack your things. We are having dinner at 6, and I expect you to be pleasant. He turned and walked away, Patricia following after him, her hand still on his arm like she was afraid to let go. I heard their footsteps on the stairs, heard the murmur of their voices fading as they went back down to the perfect living room in the perfect house that would never be home. Marcus appeared in my doorway, his eyes red like he had been crying but trying to hide it. I do not like it here, he whispered. I know, I said, going to him and pulling him into a hug. His head barely reached my shoulder now, but he still felt small, still felt like the little kid who used to follow me everywhere. I do not like it either. Do we have to stay? I did not know how to answer that. We were kids. We did not get to choose. So I just held him tighter and said, we will figure it out. I promise. The first few weeks were a careful dance of avoidance and forced politeness. Patricia tried too hard, always asking questions about school and friends and hobbies, always suggesting activities we could do together as a family. She made elaborate dinners every night, the kitchen filling with smells of roasted chicken and garlic bread and chocolate cake, trying to win us over through our stomachs. But every meal felt like a performance, all of us sitting around a dining table with its fancy placemats and cloth napkins, pretending we were something we were not. My father watched us constantly during those dinners, his eyes moving from me to Marcus to Patricia, looking for signs that this was working, that we were becoming the happy blended family he had imagined. He would ask about our days, and we would give short answers, and Patricia would fill the silences with chatter about her yoga class or the book club she had joined or the plans she had for redecorating the guest bathroom. Marcus retreated into himself, spending most of his time in his room with the door closed, playing video games or reading. He stopped talking much at dinner, just nodding or shaking his head when asked direct questions. I could see my father getting frustrated, could see him wanting to demand that Marcus try harder, but Patricia would put her hand on his arm and shake her head slightly, and he would let it go. I tried to be out of the house as much as possible. I got a job at the coffee shop downtown, working afternoons and weekends, telling my father it was to save money for college, but really just needing somewhere to be that was not there, not in that house that smelled like Patricia's perfume and fresh paint and the death of everything we used to be. The coffee shop smelled like espresso and cinnamon, and the noise of the machines and the chatter of customers filled my head in a way that felt like relief. But I always made sure to be home before Marcus went to bed. That was our time, the 20 minutes or so when I would sit on the edge of his bed, and we would talk about real things, not the careful surface conversations we had at dinner. He would tell me about school, about the kids who were mean to him, about how he still sometimes forgot Mom was gone and would think of something he wanted to tell her before remembering. And I would listen. And sometimes I would cry with him, and we would hold on to each other like we were the only real things left in the world. One night about a month after we moved in, I came home from work to find the house dark, except for a light in the kitchen. It was almost 10, later than I usually worked, and I had expected everyone to be asleep. But as I came to the front door, I heard voices, low and tense, coming from the kitchen. I set my keys down quietly on the hall table and moved closer, staying in the shadows of the hallway. I told you this would take time. My father was saying, "They are grieving. They need space." "It has been 2 years, David," Patricia said, her voice tight with frustration. 2 years since she died. At some point, they need to move forward. At some point, you need to stop letting them treat me like I am the enemy. You knew what you were getting into, my father said. You knew I had kids. You knew this would be complicated. I knew you had kids, Patricia said. I did not know they would hate me. I did not know Lily would look at me like I killed her mother myself. I did not know Marcus would act like I do not even exist. There was a long silence. I pressed myself against the wall, my heart pounding so hard I was sure they would hear it. The refrigerator hummed. Someone's phone buzzed on the counter. Maybe this was a mistake, Patricia said finally, her voice softer now, almost sad. Maybe we moved too fast. Maybe you were not ready. No, my father said quickly. No, this was not a mistake. I love you. I want this. I want us. I just need more time with them. I need to make them understand. Understand what? That you have moved on? That you have replaced their mother? Because that is what it feels like. David, that is what I feel like. A replacement. A stand-in. Someone you settled for because you could not have her. That is not true, my father said, and I could hear the desperation in his voice. You are not a replacement. What we have is different. It is new. It is ours. But it is not theirs, Patricia said, and I do not know if it ever will be. I heard footsteps and quickly moved back toward the front door, grabbing my keys and opening and closing the door loudly like I had just come in. The voices in the kitchen stopped immediately. A moment later, my father appeared in the hallway, his face carefully neutral. "Hey, sweetheart," he said. "You are home late. Busy night at the shop." I said, not meeting his eyes. "I am going to bed. Did you eat?" "I grabbed something at work." He nodded, and I could see him wanted to say more, wanted to bridge the gap between us, but not knowing how. "Okay, sleep well." I went upstairs and checked on Marcus, who was asleep with his light still on and a book open on his chest. I carefully took the book and set it on his nightstand, turned off the light, and pulled his blanket up over his shoulders. He stirred slightly but did not wake. In the dim light from the hallway, he looked so young, so vulnerable, and I felt a fierce protectiveness surge through me. Whatever happened, I would make sure he was okay. That was my job now. That was what Mom would have wanted. In my own room, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the house settling around me. I heard my father and Patricia come upstairs, heard their bedroom door close, heard the murmur of their voices through the wall. I thought about what Patricia had said, about being a replacement, about us hating her. And the truth was, I did not hate her. I did not know her well enough to hate her. What I hated was what she represented. The proof that life went on, that people could be replaced, that grief had an expiration date. School started in September, and that brought its own complications. Marcus was starting 7th grade at a new school, and I was beginning my senior year at a different high school than the one I had gone to before. Patricia had insisted on driving us both on the first day, wanted to be involved, wanted to play the role of mother. But I had refused, telling my father I would drive Marcus myself. I had gotten my license over the summer, and Dad had bought me an old Honda that ran well enough to get us where we needed to go. The morning of the first day, I woke Marcus up early and made him breakfast while Patricia and Dad were still asleep. We ate cereal at the kitchen counter in comfortable silence, the house quiet around us. Outside, the sky was just starting to lighten, the darkness fading to a deep blue. Birds were beginning to sing. their calls clear in the still morning air. You nervous? I asked Marcus as we got in the car. He shrugged, staring out the window. I guess. New school. Do not know anyone. You will make friends, I said. Starting the engine. You always do. What if they ask about Mom? He said quietly. What do I say? You telling the truth. I said. That she died 2 years ago. That you miss her. That is nothing to be ashamed of. What if they asked about Patricia? I glanced at him. What do you want to say about her? He was quiet for a long moment. I do not know. She is not my mom, but she is married to Dad. So what is she? She is your father's wife. I said, that is all she has to be right now. You do not owe anyone more explanation than that. He nodded, seeming relieved at permission not to figure it all out right away. We drove the rest of the way in silence, the radio playing softly, some pop song I did not know the words to. I dropped him off at the middle school entrance, watching until he disappeared inside, before driving to my own school. My senior year should have been exciting. It should have been about college applications and prom, and senior skip day, and all the things I had looked forward since freshman year. But instead, it felt like I was just going through the motions, checking boxes, getting through each day so I could go home and make sure Marcus was okay. My friends noticed. They asked if I was all right, if something was wrong, but I did not know how to explain it. How do you tell people that your whole life has been rearranged without your permission, that you are living in a stranger's house with a stranger who is trying to be your mother, that your father has become someone you barely recognize? October came with cooler weather and leaves turning gold and red. Patricia decided we should have a family dinner every Sunday, a tradition she said would help us bond. She would spend all day Saturday planning the menu, shopping for ingredients, setting the table with special dishes she had inherited from her grandmother. The dinners were elaborate affairs, multiple courses, wine for the adults, sparkling cider for Marcus and me. She would light candles and put on soft music, and try so hard to make it feel special, feel meaningful. But they just felt exhausting. We would sit there for hours, making small talk, pretending to enjoy the food, while my father watched us with that hopeful, desperate expression. Patricia would ask us questions about school, about our friends, about our plans for the future, and we would give the minimum answers required to be polite. Marcus would push food around his plate, barely eating, and I would see Patricia's face tighten with hurt and frustration. One Sunday in late October, Patricia made pot roast with roasted vegetables and mashed potatoes. Comfort food, she said her mother used to make. The house smelled rich and savory, and despite myself, I was hungry. We sat down at the table, and my father poured wine for himself and Patricia, filled our glasses with cider. I want to make a toast, he said, standing up and raising his glass. To family, to new beginnings, to making this work. We all raised our glasses dutifully, the crystal clinking together with a clear, bright sound. I took a sip of the cider, too sweet, bubbles tickling my nose. Patricia served the food, giving everyone generous portions, her face bright with hope. This looks amazing, my father said, cutting into his meat. You outdid yourself. Honey, I hope you like it, Patricia said, looking at Marcus and me. I used to love when my mom made this. It always made everything feel better, you know? Like no matter what was going wrong. A good meal could fix it. Marcus took a small bite, chewing slowly. It is good, he said quietly. Patricia beamed. I am so glad. I was thinking maybe you could help me next time. Marcus, I could teach you how to make it. It could be our thing. Marcus's face closed off immediately. My mom used to cook with me, he said. That was our thing. The table went silent. My father set down his fork, his jaw tight. Patricia's smile faltered, hurt flashing across her face before she could hide it. I know, sweetheart, she said carefully. I am not trying to replace those memories. I just thought it might be nice to make new ones together. I do not want new ones, Marcus said, his voice rising. I want the old ones. I want Mom. Marcus, my father said, his voice hard with warning. That is enough. But Marcus was not done. He pushed his chair back, the legs scraping loudly against the floor. Why did you have to marry her? He said, tears streaming down his face now. Why could it not just be us? We were fine. We did not need her. We were not fine. My father said, standing up, I was drowning Marcus. I was barely keeping my head above water. Patricia saved me. She saved all of us. We did not need saving, I said, surprising myself by speaking up. We needed you. We needed our father. But you were so busy being sad that you did not even notice we were sad too. My father turned to me, his face flushing red. You think I did not notice? You think I did not see you taking care of everything, try and be the adult? That is exactly why I needed to make a change. You should not have had to do that. You should not have had to raise your brother. So you brought in a stranger to do it instead? I said, you think that is better? She is not a stranger, my father said. She is my wife. She is part of this family now, whether you like it or not. Patricia stood up, her hand shaking. Maybe I should go, she said quietly. Let you three talk. No, my father said firmly. You are not going anywhere. They need to accept this. They need to accept you. You cannot force us to feel something we do not feel, I said. You cannot just decide we are a family and make it true. Then what do you want? My father shouted, his control finally breaking. What do you want from me, Lily? I am doing the best I can. I am trying to give you a stable home, a mother figure, a normal life. What more do you want? I want Mom, I shouted back, standing up to face him. I want Mom, and I cannot have her, and neither can you. So you found someone else. But we do not get that choice. We do not get to replace her. We just have to live with the hole she left behind. The words hung in the air between us, raw and true and painful. My father's face crumpled, and for a moment, he looked like he might cry. Patricia had tears running down her face, her carefully applied makeup smearing. Marcus was sobbing openly now, his shoulders shaking. I cannot do this, I said, my voice breaking. I cannot sit here and pretend like everything is okay when it is not. I cannot pretend like she is Mom when she is not. I cannot pretend like this is home when it is not. I grabbed my keys from the counter and walked out, leaving them all standing there in the dining room with the pot roast getting cold and the candles burning down. I got in my car and drove, not knowing where I was going, just needing to be away from that house, from those people, from the suffocating weight of expectations I could not meet. I ended up at the cemetery where Mom was buried. I had not been there since the funeral, had not been able to face it. But now I parked and walked through the rows of headstones in the fading light, the grass damp under my feet, the air smelling like earth and cut grass and the flowers people had left on graves. I found her stone, simple gray granite with her name and dates, and the words beloved wife and mother. I sat down on the grass in front of it, not caring that it was wet, that it would stain my jeans. The stone was cool when I touched it, solid and real in a way that nothing else felt anymore. I do not know what to do, I said out loud, my voice small in the vast quiet of the cemetery. I do not know how to do this without you. Dad has moved on, and I am happy for him, I guess, but I do not know how to move on. I do not know how to let go. The wind picked up, rustling through the trees that lined the cemetery, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and distant rain. I sat there until it was fully dark, until the security lights came on, until my phone buzzed with texts from my father asking where I was, if I was safe when I was coming home. Finally, I stood up, my legs stiff from sitting so long. I am going to try. I told the stone, told my mother's memory. I am going to try to make this work. For Marcus, for Dad. But I do not know if I can. I drove back to the house slowly, dreading what I would find. But when I walked in, the dining room was cleaned up, the dishes done, the candles blown out. The house was quiet. I found Marcus in his room, lying on his bed staring at the ceiling. "Hey," I said softly from the doorway. He turned to look at me, his eyes red and swollen. "Are you okay?" "I am okay," I said, coming to sit on the edge of his bed. "Are you?" He shrugged. "Dad and Patricia had a big fight after you left. She was crying. He was yelling. Then she went to their room, and he went to his office, and I came up here. I am sorry," I said. "I should not have left you." "It is okay," he said. "I am glad you said what you said. Someone needed to." We lay there together in the dim light from his bedside lamp, not talking, just being together, Eventually, I heard footsteps in the hall, and my father appeared in the doorway. He looked exhausted, his face drawn, his shoulders slumped. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. I looked at Marcus, who nodded. I followed my father downstairs to his office, a small room off the living room that he had filled with his books and his desk, and the leather chair that had been his office at our old house. It smelled like him, like coffee and old paper, and the cologne he wore. It was the only room in the house that felt like it belonged to us, to our old life. He sat down in his chair and gestured for me to take the chair across from the desk. I sat, my hands folded in my lap, waiting. "I owe you an apology," he said finally. "I have been so focused on trying to make this work, on trying to create this perfect blended family, that I have not been listening to what you and Marcus actually need. I have been selfish." I did not know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to agree, to tell him yes, he had been selfish. He had been wrong. But another part of me, the part that still remembered him as my hero, wanted to comfort him, to tell him it was okay. "I love Patricia," he continued. "I know that is hard for you to hear, but it is true. She makes me happy in a way I did not think I could be happy again after your mother died. But I love you and Marcus more. You are my children. You are my priority. And I have not been treating you that way. What about Patricia?" I asked. "She is your wife. She should be your priority too." He sighed, rubbing his face with his hands. "That is the problem, is it not? I am trying to balance everyone's needs, and I am failing at all of it. Patricia feels rejected and unwanted. You and Marcus feel replaced and ignored. And I am stuck in the middle, trying to make everyone happy and making everyone miserable instead. Maybe you cannot make everyone happy." I said, "Maybe that is not possible." He looked at me, and I saw the defeat in his eyes. "So what do I do?" "I do not know," I said honestly. "But I think you need to stop trying to force us to be something we are not ready to be. Patricia is not our mother. This house is not our home. And we are not a happy family. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And pretending otherwise is just making everything worse." He was quiet for a long time, staring at his desk, at the framed photo of Mom that he still kept there, hidden among the other papers and books where Patricia would not see it and be hurt by it. "Your mother would know what to do," he said softly. "She always knew what to do. Mom would tell you to stop trying so hard." I said, "She would tell you to just be present, to listen, to let things happen naturally instead of forcing them." He smiled sadly. "You sound like her." "I will try harder with Patricia," I said. "I will be more polite. I will participate in the family dinners. But I cannot promise I will ever see her as my mother. I cannot promise Marcus will either. That is not fair to ask." "I know," he said. "I know, and I will talk to Patricia. I will make sure she understands that too." We sat there in the quiet of his office, the house settling around us, the sound of the heater kicking on, the distant hum of traffic from a main road. It was not a resolution. It was not a happy ending. But it was something. It was a start. The next few months were easier in some ways, harder in others. My father stopped pushing so hard for us to bond with Patricia, and she stopped trying so hard to be our mother. We found a rhythm, a careful balance of coexistence. She would make dinner, and we would eat it and thank her. She would ask about our days, and we would give real answers instead of one-word responses. She stopped suggesting activities we could do together as a family, and instead, my father would take Marcus and me out on his own sometimes, just the three of us, giving us space to be who we had always been. Patricia got a job at a marketing firm downtown, which meant she was gone during the day and came home tired, less focused on fixing us. I think it was good for her, having something that was hers, something outside of the complicated dynamics of our household. She seemed happier, more relaxed, less desperate for our approval. Marcus started seeing a therapist, someone who specialized in grief counseling for kids. My father had suggested it after the blow-up at dinner, and surprisingly, Marcus had agreed. He went every Thursday after school, and I would pick him up, and we would get ice cream, and he would tell me about what they talked about, if he felt like sharing. Mostly, he seemed lighter after those sessions, like he had put down a weight he had been carrying. I applied to colleges, all of them far away. All of them offered me an escape from this house and this life. My father looked sad when I showed him the list, but he did not try to talk me out of it. I think he understood that I needed distance, needed space to figure out who I was outside of being a responsible older sister, the substitute mother, the grieving daughter. Winter came, and with it, the holidays. Patricia asked tentatively if we could put up a Christmas tree, if we could decorate the house. My father looked at us, waiting for our reaction. Marcus and I exchanged a glance, and then Marcus shrugged. "Okay," he said, "but we use Mom's ornaments, the ones from our old house." Patricia's face lit up. "Of course. I would love that. I would love to see them." So we brought down the boxes from the attic, the ornaments Mom had collected over the years, each one with a story. There was a glass angel she had bought on our trip to Germany when I was 5. The handmade snowflake Marcus had made in kindergarten. The set of wooden nutcrackers that had belonged to her grandmother. We unpacked them carefully, and Patricia listened as we told her the stories, and she did not try to add her own memories or make it about her. She just listened and helped us hang them on the tree, and when we were done, she made hot chocolate, and we sat in the living room with the lights off except for the tree, the colored bulbs casting a soft glow over everything. "It is beautiful," Patricia said softly. "Thank you for sharing this with me." And for the first time, I felt like maybe she meant it. Maybe she was not trying to replace Mom. Maybe she was just trying to find her place in a family that had been broken and was slowly, painfully, learning how to be whole again in a different way. Christmas morning was quiet. We opened presents in the living room, the tree lights twinkling, the smell of cinnamon rolls baking in the oven. Patricia had got Marcus a new gaming system he had been wanting, and he actually hugged her when he opened it, a quick, awkward hug, but a real one. She got me a gift card to the bookstore and a beautiful journal with a leather cover, and I thanked her sincerely, touched that she had paid attention to what I actually liked. My father gave us both envelopes, and when we opened them, we found letters he had written, long letters about how much he loved us, how proud he was of us, how sorry he was for the ways he had failed us. I read mine twice, tears streaming down my face, and when I looked up, Marcus was crying too, and my father was watching us with his own eyes wet. "I love you both so much," he said. "I know this has been hard. I know I have made mistakes. But I want you to know that no matter what, you are my priority. You always will be. We love you too, Dad," I said, and Marcus nodded, and we all hugged, the three of us, holding on to each other like we used to, like we were the only real things in the world. Patricia watched from the doorway to the kitchen, and when we pulled apart, she smiled at us, a real smile, not the forced one she used to wear. "I am going to check on the rolls," she said, giving us space, understanding that this moment was ours. After breakfast, my father suggested we go for a walk, just the three of us. It was cold outside, the air crisp and clean, our breath making clouds in front of our faces. We walked to the neighborhood, past houses decorated with lights and inflatable snowmen, past families playing in their yards. We did not talk much, just walked together, and it felt good, felt right, felt like maybe we were going to be okay. When we got back to the house, Patricia had made lunch, soup and sandwiches, and we ate together at the kitchen counter, the conversation easy and natural. She told us about her family's Christmas traditions, about how her father used to dress up as Santa every year, even when she was too old to believe, about how her mother would make a different kind of cookie every day in December. And we listened, and it did not feel like she was trying to compete with our memories of Mom. It just felt like she was sharing herself with us, letting us know her. That night, after Marcus had gone to bed, I found Patricia in the living room, sitting on the couch with a glass of wine, staring at the Christmas tree. I hesitated in the doorway, not sure if I should interrupt, but she saw me and smiled. "Come sit," she said, patting the couch beside her. I sat down, leaving a careful distance between us. The tree lights reflected in the window, doubling their glow. The house was quiet, peaceful. "Thank you for today," Patricia said, "for letting me be part of it. I know it was not easy. It was not as hard as I thought it would be. I admit it." She laughed softly. "I will take that as a win." We sat in silence for a moment, and then I said, "I am sorry for how I have treated you, for making this so difficult." She turned to look at me, her eyes soft. "You do not have to apologize, Lily. You lost your mother. You are allowed to grieve. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to not want me here. But you are here," I said, "and you are not going anywhere. And I think maybe that is okay." She reached over and squeezed my hand, just for a moment, and then let go. That means more to me than you know. I went to bed that night feeling lighter than I had in months, maybe years. It was not perfect. We were not a perfect family. But maybe we did not need to be. Maybe we just needed to be honest with each other, to give each other space to grieve and heal and grow. The new year came, and with it, a sense of possibility. I got my college acceptance letters in the spring, and I chose a school in California, as far from home as I could get while still being in the continental United States. My father looked sad when I told him, but he hugged me and told me he was proud of me, that I should go and live my life and not worry about him and Marcus. "But I do worry," I said. "I worry about leaving Marcus. I worry about him being here without me." "He will be okay," my father said. "We will be okay. You have done enough. Lily, you have held us together when I could not. But now it is time for you to focus on yourself." Patricia helped me shop for dorm supplies, driving me to Target and Bed Bath & Beyond, helping me pick out sheets and towels and a mini fridge. It was strange, spending time with her one-on-one, but it was also nice. She did not try to give me advice or tell me what to do. She just helped me carry things and offered opinions when I asked and paid for lunch when we stopped to eat. "You're going to do great things," she said as we loaded the car with bags. "I can tell. You are strong and smart, and you do not let anything stop you." "I learn from the best," I said, and then added, "My mom, she was like that." Patricia nodded. I wish I could have met her. "From everything you and Marcus have told me, she sounds like she was an amazing person." "She was," I said, and then, because it felt right, I added, "You are pretty amazing, too, in your own way." Her eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "Thank you, Lily. That means everything." The summer passed too quickly. I worked at the coffee shop, saved money, spent time with Marcus. We went to the movies, to the beach, to the arcade. We talked about everything and nothing. He was growing up, getting taller, his voice deepening. He was going to be okay. I realized he had Dad, and he had Patricia, and he had his therapist, and he had himself. He did not need me to take care of him anymore. The night before I left for college, we had one last family dinner. Patricia made my favorite, chicken parmesan with garlic bread and Caesar salad. We ate and talked and laughed, and it felt almost normal, almost like we were a real family. After dinner, my father gave me a gift, a necklace that had belonged to my mother, a simple silver chain with a small diamond pendant. "She would want you to have this," he said, fastening it around my neck. "She would be so proud of you." I touched the pendant, feeling the weight of it, the history. "Thank you," I whispered. Marcus gave me a card he had made himself, with a drawing of the two of us on the front and a message inside that said, "You are the best sister ever. Do not forget about me when you are in California, being cool." I hugged him tight, promising I would call every week, that I would come home for holidays, that nothing would change between us. Patricia gave me a photo album she had put together, filled with pictures from the past year. There were photos of Christmas, of family dinners, of random moments I had not even realized she was capturing. On the last page, she had written, "You will always have a home here. No matter where you go or what you do, you will always have a place with us." I looked at her, this woman who had tried so hard, who had been patient when I was cruel, who had loved my father and tried to love us too. "Thank you," I said, "for everything, for not giving up on us." She hugged me, and I hugged her back, and it felt real, felt genuine. We were not mother and daughter. We would never be that, but we were something. We were family in our own complicated, imperfect way. I left the next morning, my car packed with everything I owned, my father and Marcus and Patricia, standing in the driveway, waving goodbye. I cried as I drove away, watching them get smaller in my rearview mirror, but they were not sad tears. They were grateful tears, relieved tears, hopeful tears. I had survived. We had all survived. And maybe that was enough. College was everything I hoped it would be. I made friends, joined clubs, discovered new passions. I called home every week like I promised, talking to Marcus about school and friends and video games, talking to my father about my classes and my plans for future. Sometimes Patricia would get on the phone too, and we would chat about small things, easy things, and it felt natural. I came home for Thanksgiving, and the house felt different. It felt warmer, more lived in. Marcus had put up posters in his room, and there were photos on the walls now, pictures of all of us, including some of Mom. Patricia had not tried to erase her. She had made space for her, understanding that she was part of our story, part of who we were. Dinner was chaotic and loud, with everyone talking over each other, laughing at inside jokes, passing dishes back and forth. It felt like family. Not the family we used to be, but the family we had become, different but still good, still ours. After dinner, I helped Patricia with the dishes while my father and Marcus watched football in the living room. We worked in comfortable silence, the warm water running over our hands, the smell of soap and leftover turkey filling the kitchen. "I am glad you came home," Patricia said. "The house feels more complete when you are here." "I am glad I came too," I said. "I missed you guys. All of you." She smiled, and I smiled back, and in that moment, I realized something. I had spent so long being angry, being resistant, being afraid that accepting Patricia meant betraying my mother. But it did not. Loving Patricia, or at least caring about her, did not diminish what I felt for Mom. The heart was big enough for both. The heart was big enough for all of it. I went back to school after the weekend, but something had shifted. I felt lighter, freer. I had let go of something I did not even realize I was holding on to, some idea of how things should be, some fantasy of going back to the way things were. I could not go back. None of us could, but we could go forward. We could build something new. Christmas break came, and I flew home, excited to see everyone. Marcus picked me up from the airport with my father, and he had grown even more, almost as tall as Dad now. He hugged me tight, and I ruffled his hair like I used to, and he pretended to be annoyed, but I could tell he was happy. The house was decorated for Christmas, the same ornaments on the tree, but Patricia had added some new ones too, including one with a photo of all four of us from Thanksgiving. It made me smile. We were all in it together now. We were all part of the story. On Christmas Eve, we went to church, something we had not done since Mom died. It was Patricia's tradition, and she had asked if we would be willing to try it. The church was beautiful, lit with candles, the air thick with incense and the sound of the choir singing. I sat between Marcus and Patricia, my father on her other side, and I felt a sense of peace wash over me. Mom would have liked this. I thought she would have been happy that we were together, that we were trying, that we were healing. After the service, we drove around looking at Christmas lights, the car warm and filled with the sound of carols on the radio. Marcus pointed out his favorites, and Patricia told us about the neighborhood where she grew up, where every house competed to have the best display. My father held her hand, and she leaned her head on his shoulder, and I felt happy for them, genuinely happy. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I could not sleep. I went downstairs and found my father in his office, working on something on his computer. He looked up when I came in, smiling. "Cannot sleep?" he asked. "Too much excitement," I said, sitting down in the chair across from him. "What are you working on?" "Just some emails," he said, closing the laptop. "Nothing important." "How are you, sweetheart?" "Really?" "I am good," I said. "Really good. School is great. I love my classes. I love my friends. I love my life." He smiled, but there was sadness in his eyes. "I miss you. The house is too quiet without you." "I miss you too," I said. "But I am happy, Dad. I am really happy. And I think that is what Mom would have wanted." He nodded, his eyes getting wet. "She would be so proud of you, of the woman you have become, of how you have handled all of this." "I could not have done it without you," I said. "Without all of you. Even Patricia. Especially Patricia." He looked surprised. "Really?" "Really," I said. "She has been good for you. Good for us." I did not want to see it at first, but I see it now. She loves you. She loves us. And that is a gift, Dad. That is something to be grateful for. He came around the desk and hugged me, and we stood there in his office, holding each other, both of us crying a little, both of us healing. When we pulled apart, he looked at me with such love, such pride, that I felt like I could do anything, be anything. "You are going to change the world, Lily," he said. "I know it. I am going to try," I said. The rest of the break passed in a blur of family time and friend time and quiet time. I spent hours with Marcus, just hanging out, watching movies, playing video games. I helped Patricia cook dinner one night, and she taught me how to make her famous lasagna, walking me through each step with patience and humor. I went through old photo albums with my father, looking at pictures of Mom, telling stories, laughing and crying and remembering. On my last night home, we had another family dinner, and this time I was the one who wanted to make a toast. I stood up, raising my glass of sparkling cider, and everyone looked at me expectantly. "I want to say thank you," I said, "to all of you. This year has been hard, but it has also been good. We have all grown. We have all changed. We have become something new, something different than we were, but something good. Dad, thank you for loving us enough to take a chance on happiness again. Marcus, thank you for being brave and honest and for teaching me that it is okay to feel what you feel. And Patricia, thank you for being patient with us, for loving Dad, for making space for Mom in your life and in your heart. Thank you for being part of our family." Patricia was crying openly now, and my father had his arm around her, his own eyes wet. Marcus raised his glass and said, "To family, to family." We all echoed, and we drank, and it felt like a promise, like a commitment, like a new beginning. I went back to school after that, but I carried them with me, all of them, in my heart. I called more often, sent care packages to Marcus, texted Patricia funny memes I thought she would like. I was part of their lives, and they were part of mine, and the distance did not change that. Spring semester flew by, and before I knew it, it was summer again. I decided to stay in California for the summer, getting an internship at a tech company in San Francisco. My father was disappointed, but he understood. I needed to build my own life, my own identity, separate from being the daughter who lost her mother, the sister who raised her brother, the stepdaughter who learned to accept her stepmother. But I came home for a week in July, and it was like no time had passed at all. We fell back into our rhythms, our patterns. We had family dinners and movie nights and lazy afternoons by the pool Patricia had convinced my father to install in the backyard. Marcus had a girlfriend now, a sweet girl named Emma, who came over for dinner one night and fit right in, laughing at my father's bad jokes and complimenting Patricia's cooking. I watched them all, my family, this strange patchwork family we had become, and I felt overwhelmed with love. This was not what I had imagined when my father first told us he was getting remarried. This was not what I had wanted, but it was what we had built together, through pain and anger and grief and forgiveness. And it was beautiful. On my last night home, I could not sleep again. I went out to the backyard and sat by the pool, my feet dangling in the water, looking up at the stars. The night was warm, the air thick with the smell of jasmine from the bushes Patricia had planted along the fence. I heard the sliding door open behind me, and Patricia came out, wrapped in a robe, carrying 2 mugs of tea. "Mind if I join you?" she asked. "Please," I said, taking one of the mugs. It was chamomile, sweet and soothing. She sat down beside me, her own feet going into the water. We sat in silence for a while, just listening to the night sounds, the crickets and the distant traffic, and the gentle lap of the water against the sides of the pool. "I want to tell you something," Patricia said finally. "Something I have never told anyone, not even your father." I turned to look at her. "Curious." "Okay." She took a deep breath. "When I married your father, I knew it would be hard. I knew you and Marcus were grieving. I knew I could never replace your mother. But I did not realize how hard it would be, how much it would hurt to be rejected, to be seen as the enemy, to be the outsider in my own home. I am sorry," I started to say, but she held up her hand. "Let me finish," she said gently. "There were so many times I wanted to give up, so many times I thought about leaving, about telling your father that this was too hard, that I could not do it. But I stayed. Do you know why?" I shook my head. Because I saw how much he loved you, she said. I saw how much he was hurting, how much he was trying to hold it all together for you and Marcus. And I saw how much you were hurting too, how much you were trying to be strong for everyone else. And I thought, if I can just take some of that burden off of them, if I can just make things a little bit easier, then it will be worth it. Even if they never love me, even if they never accept me, it will be worth it. Tears were streaming down my face now. We do love you, I said. I love you. Maybe not the way I love my mom, but in a different way, in a real way. She put her arm around me, and I leaned into her, and we sat there by the pool, crying together, healing together. I know, she said. I know, and that is more than I ever hoped for. We stayed out there for a long time, talking about everything and nothing, about her childhood and my plans for the future, and the ways we had both changed over the past 2 years. When we finally went inside, the sky was starting to lighten, the first hints of dawn coloring the horizon pink and gold. Thank you, I said as we stood in the kitchen, rinsing out our mugs, for not giving up on us, for staying. Thank you for giving me a chance, she said, for letting me in. I hugged her, a real hug, long and tight, and when we pulled apart, we were both smiling. I went upstairs to pack, feeling lighter than I had in years, feeling like I had finally let go of the last bit of anger and resentment I had been carrying. The next morning, my father drove me to the airport. We did not talk much on the way, just listened to the radio, comfortable in the silence. At the terminal, he helped me get my bags out of the trunk, and then he hugged me tight. I am so proud of you, he said, of the woman you have become. Your mother would be proud, too. I hope so, I said. I really hope so. Call when you land, he said. And remember, you always have a home with us. Always. I know, I said. I love you, Dad. I love you, too. Sweetheart. I watched him drive away, and then I went through security, through the gate, onto the plane. As we took off, I looked out the window at the city getting smaller below me, at the house somewhere down there where my family was, where my father and Patricia and Marcus were starting their day, living their lives, being a family, and I smiled because I knew that no matter where I went or what I did, I would always be part of that family. We had been broken, and we had healed, and we were stronger for it. My sophomore year was even better than my first. I declared my major in psychology, inspired by Marcus's therapist, and by my own journey through grief and healing. I wanted to help people the way we had been helped, wanted to guide families through the hard times, the transitions, the losses. I threw myself into my studies, into my internships, into building the life I wanted. I came home for Thanksgiving again, and this time Patricia's parents came too. They were warm and welcoming, and they treated Marcus and me like we were their own grandchildren. Patricia's mother pulled me aside at one point and said, "Thank you for giving my daughter a chance. She loves you all so much. You have made her so happy." "She has made us happy too," I said, and I meant it. Christmas was magical that year. We had established our traditions now. The mix of old and new, Mom's ornaments and Patricia's cookies, church on Christmas Eve, and a big breakfast on Christmas morning. Marcus was 14 now, taller than me. His voice fully changed, but he still got excited about presents like a little kid. He had made gifts for all of us, drawings he had done in his art class, each one personalized and thoughtful. Mine was a portrait of Mom, drawn from a photo, and it was so good, so lifelike, that I cried when I opened it. "You are so talented," I told him, hugging him tight. "This is the best gift I have ever gotten." He blushed, pleased. "I have been working on it all semester. I wanted to get it right." "You did," I said. "You really did." That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I hung the portrait in my room, right above my desk where I could see it every day. Mom smiled out at me from the frame. Forever young, forever beautiful, forever loved. I touched the necklace my father had given me, the one that had been hers, and I felt her presence, felt her approval, felt her love surrounding me. "You would like her," I whispered to the portrait, "to my mother's memory. You would like Patricia. She is good to Dad. She is good to us. And I think you would be happy that we are happy." The years passed, each one bringing new changes, new growth. I graduated from college with honors, got accepted into a graduate program for clinical psychology. Marcus graduated from high school and decided to go to art school, his talent undeniable, his passion clear. My father and Patricia celebrated their 5th anniversary, then their 10th, their love deepening and maturing with time. I met someone in graduate school, a kind, funny man named Daniel who made me laugh and challenged me and loved me for exactly who I was. I brought him home to meet my family, nervous about what they would think, but they loved him immediately. My father grilled him good-naturedly about his intentions. Marcus showed him his portfolio and talked his ear off about art theory, and Patricia made his favorite meal after asking me what he liked. After dinner, Patricia pulled me aside in the kitchen. "He is wonderful," she said. "I am so happy for you." "Thank you," I said. "That means a lot." She hugged me, and I hugged her back, and I realized that somewhere along the way, without me even noticing, she had become one of the most important people in my life. Not my mother, but something just as valuable, a friend, a mentor, a second mom, in her own way. Daniel proposed a year later, on a beach in California at sunset, and I said yes without hesitation. We planned a small wedding, just family and close friends, and I asked Patricia if she would help me plan it. She cried when I asked, and said it would be an honor. We spent months planning together, picking out flowers and cake flavors and the perfect dress. She was there for every fitting, every decision, every moment of stress and excitement. And when the day finally came, when I walked down the aisle on my father's arm, I saw her in the front row next to Marcus, crying happy tears, and I felt so grateful that she was part of my life, part of my story. The reception was beautiful, held in a garden with lights strung through the trees and music playing softly. I danced with my father, and he told me how proud he was, how much he loved me, how he knew Mom was watching and smiling. Then I danced with Marcus, who was 20 now and so handsome in his suit, and he told me he was happy for me, that Daniel was a good guy, that I deserved all the happiness in the world. And then, surprised at myself, I asked Patricia to dance. She looked shocked, then touched, and she took my hand, and we moved onto the dance floor together. We swayed to the music, and I said, "Thank you for everything, for loving my father, for being patient with us, for becoming part of our family. Thank you for letting me," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for giving me a chance. You and Marcus, you are the greatest gift your father ever gave me." We held each other as we danced. Two women who had started as strangers, as adversaries almost, and had become family through patience and forgiveness and love. When the song ended, we hugged, and I whispered, "I love you. I love you too," she whispered back. Daniel and I moved to Seattle after the wedding, where I had gotten a job at a family therapy clinic, and he was starting a position at a tech company. We bought a small house with a yard, talking about the future, about kids, about building our own family. But I made sure to go home often, to stay connected to my father and Patricia and Marcus, to be part of their lives even from a distance. Marcus came to visit us often, crashing on our couch, filling our house with his energy and his laughter. He was thriving at art school, his work getting recognition, galleries starting to show interest. He had grown into an incredible young man, sensitive and creative and kind, and I was so proud of him, so grateful that he had made it through the hard times and come out the other side whole. One weekend when he was visiting, we went for a hike in the mountains outside Seattle. It was a clear day, the air crisp and clean, the view spectacular. We stopped at a lookout point, catching our breath, looking out over the valleys and forests stretching to the horizon. "Do you ever think about Mom?" Marcus asked suddenly. "All the time," I said. "Every day. Do you think she would be proud of us? Of who we have become?" "I think she would be incredibly proud," I said. "I think she would be happy that we are happy, that we found our way through the grief and came out the other side." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "I am glad Dad married Patricia. I know I did not feel that way at first, but I do now. She has been good for him, good for all of us." "Me too," I said. "I think Mom will be glad too. I think she would want Dad to be happy, to have someone to love, to not be alone." "Do you think you can love more than one mother?" he asked, like, not in the same way, but still love them both? "I think the heart is big enough for all kinds of love," I said. I think we can love Mom and miss her, and honor her memory, and also love Patricia, and appreciate what she's brought to our lives. They do not cancel each other out. They both exist. They are both real. He nodded, seeming satisfied with that answer. We stood there for a while longer, just breathing in the mountain air, feeling the sun on our faces, being together. Then we hiked back down, talking about his latest art project, about my work at the clinic, about Daniel's new job, about all the good things in our lives. That night, I called my father and Patricia, and we talked for over an hour, laughing and sharing stories and making plans for the holidays. When we hung up, I felt full, complete, like all the pieces of my life had finally come together in a way that made sense. Years continue to pass, bringing more changes, more milestones. Daniel and I had a daughter, and we named her Grace, after my mother. When I told my father and Patricia, they both cried. Patricia said it was a beautiful way to honor her, and she promised to tell Grace all about the grandmother she never got to meet. When Grace was born, my father and Patricia flew out to Seattle to meet her. Patricia held her with such tenderness, such love, and I saw in her face the same expression I had seen on my mother's face in old photos, that look of pure joy and wonder at new life. She is perfect, Patricia whispered. Absolutely perfect. She looks like Mom, my father said, touching Grace's tiny hand. She has her eyes. And over the years, as Grace grew, I saw it was true. She had my mother's eyes, her smile, her gentle spirit. But she also had Patricia's laugh, her creativity, her warmth. She was a blend of all of us, a continuation of our story, proof that love could transcend loss, that families could be built and rebuilt and built again. Marcus became a successful artist, his work shown in galleries across the country. He fell in love with a man named James, and they got married in a beautiful ceremony in San Francisco. My father walked Marcus down the aisle, and Patricia and I sat together in the front row, holding hands, crying happy tears. Our family kept growing, kept evolving, kept becoming more than we ever imagined it could be. On what would have been my mother's 60th birthday, we all gathered at the cemetery, where she was buried. My father, Patricia, Marcus, James, Daniel, Grace, and me. We brought flowers, her favorite roses, and we stood around her grave, each of us sharing a memory, a story, a piece of her that we carried with us. Grace, who was 5 now, put a drawing she made on the grave, a picture of a woman with a big smile and angel wings. "This is for Grandma Grace," she said, "the one I am named after. I wish I could have met her. She would have loved you so much." I told her, kneeling down to her level. Just like we all do, Patricia knelt down too, putting her arm around Grace. "And I will make sure you know all about her," she said. "All the stories, all the memories. She will always be part of our family." I looked at Patricia, this woman who had come into our lives when we were broken and angry and lost, who had stayed when it would have been easier to leave, who had loved us even when we could not love her back. And I felt such gratitude, such love, such appreciation for the journey we had all been on together. "Thank you." I mouthed to her over Grace's head. She smiled and mouthed back, "Thank you, too." We stood there together, all of us, this patchwork family that had been stitched together through loss and love and forgiveness. We were not perfect. We had our struggles, our disagreements, our hard days. But we were real. We were honest. We were committed to each other, and that was more than enough. As we walked back to our cars, Grace held my hand on one side and Patricia's on the other, skipping between us, singing a song she had learned at school. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange and gold. Birds sang in the trees. The air smelled like grass and flowers and the promise of spring. My father walked beside Marcus and James, his arm around Marcus's shoulders, talking and laughing. Daniel walked with them, fitting in seamlessly part of the family now. We were all part of each other's stories, all connected by the threads of love and loss, and the choice to keep showing up, keep trying, keep loving even when it was hard. That night, we all went back to my father and Patricia's house, the house that had once felt so foreign and wrong but now felt like home. Patricia cooked dinner, and we all helped, crowding into the kitchen, bumping into each other, laughing and talking over each other. Grace sat at the counter. coloring, while the adults move around her, preparing food, pouring drinks, setting the table. We ate in the dining room, the same room where we had had that terrible fight so many years ago, the fight that felt like the end of everything, but had actually been the beginning of something new. The table was full now, crowded with people in food and love. We held hands and said grace, thanking God or the universe or whatever force had brought us together and kept us together through all the hard times. After dinner, we moved to the living room, where the Christmas tree still stood even though it was spring, because Grace had begged to see it, and Patricia could never say no to her. We sat around talking, sharing stories, making plans for summer. Grace fell asleep on Patricia's lap, and Patricia stroked her hair gently, her face soft with love. I took a photo of them like that, wanting to capture the moment, wanting to remember. Then I took photos of everyone, of my father and Marcus laughing at some joke, of Daniel and James deep in conversation, of all of us together. These were the moments that mattered. I thought these were the memories we were building, the legacy we were creating. Later, after everyone had gone to bed, I found myself in my father's office again, looking at the photo of my mother that still sat on his desk. She looked so young in the picture, so full of life, frozen in a moment of happiness that would never fade. I touched the frame gently, feeling the familiar ache of missing her, but it was softer now, gentler, mixed with gratitude for the time we had had together. I heard footsteps behind me and turned to see my father in the doorway. He came in and stood beside me, looking at the photo too. I still miss her, he said quietly, every day. I know, I said. Me too. But I am also grateful, he said, for Patricia, for the life we have built, for the family we have become. I hope that does not make me a bad person. I hope your mother would understand. I think she would more than understand. I said, I think she would be happy for you. For all of us. She loved us too much to want us to be stuck in grief forever. He put his arm around me, and I leaned into him, and we stood there together, father and daughter, looking at the past and the present and the future all at once. We had come so far from that day when he first told us about Patricia, when I had been so angry and resistant and afraid. We had all grown, all changed, all learned that love was not a finite resource, that opening your heart to new people did not mean closing it to the ones you had lost. I am proud of you, he said, of the woman you have become, of the mother you are, of the way you have handled everything life has thrown at you. I learned from you, I said. You taught me that it is okay to be broken, and it is okay to heal, and it is okay to love again even after loss. We taught each other, he said. We went to bed eventually, but I lay awake for a long time, listening to the sound of the house, the breathing of my family all around me, Daniel beside me, Grace in the room next door, my father and Patricia down the hall, Marcus and James in the guest room. We were all here, all together, all part of this beautiful, complicated, imperfect family. And I realized, lying there in the dark, that this was the secret my father's new marriage had hidden. Not some terrible betrayal or scandal, but something much more profound. The secret was that healing was possible, that love could grow in the spaces left by loss, that families could be broken and remade and still be whole, that you could honor the past while embracing the future, that the heart was big enough for all of it, the grief and the joy, the old love and the new, the mother who was gone and the woman who had stepped in to help fill the void she left behind. The secret was that there was no betrayal in moving forward, no disloyalty in finding happiness again. The secret was that my mother's love had not ended when she died, but had transformed, had become part of who we were, had given us the capacity to love Patricia too, to build this new family, to create this new life. The secret was that Sweet Home was not a place or a person, but a feeling, a choice, a commitment to keep showing up for each other even when it was hard, to keep loving even when it hurt, to keep building even when it felt like everything was falling apart. And we had learned that secret, all of us, through years of struggle and pain and forgiveness. We had learned it together, and it had made us stronger, had made us better, had made us whole in a way we never could have been if we had stayed stuck in our grief, if we had refused to let Patricia in, if we had chosen anger over love. I thought about that first day in the new house, how wrong everything had felt how much I had resented Patricia and my father and the whole situation. I thought about all the fights and the tears and the hard conversations. I thought about the slow, painful process of learning to accept her, to appreciate her, to love her. And I was grateful for all of it, even the hard parts, because they had brought us here, to this moment, to this family, to this life. In the morning, we all had breakfast together, pancakes and bacon and fresh fruit, everyone talking and laughing and reaching across each other for the syrup. Grace got syrup in her hair, and Patricia cleaned it out patiently while Grace squirmed and giggled. Marcus showed us photos of his latest art installation on his phone, and we all oohed and awed appropriately. My father told a terrible dad joke, and we all groaned, but we were smiling. This is what family looks like. I thought, not perfect, not always easy, but real and messy and full of love. Before we left to go back to Seattle, I pulled Patricia aside one more time. "I have something for you," I said, handing her a wrapped package. She opened it carefully, and inside was a framed photo I had found in my mother's things, a picture of Mom smiling at the camera, radiant and beautiful. Underneath, I had written, "Thank you for loving her family. Thank you for being part of our story. With love, Lily." Patricia looked at the photo for a long time, tears streaming down her face. Then she looked at me and said, "I will treasure this always. Thank you for trusting me with this. Thank you for letting me be part of your family." We hugged, and it was not awkward or forced or uncomfortable. It was real and warm and full of all the love we had built over the years, all the forgiveness and acceptance and gratitude. As we drove away, Grace waving out the back window at her grandparents and uncles, I felt at peace. We had come full circle, from that first terrible day in the new house to this moment of complete acceptance and love. It had taken years, but we had made it. We had survived. We had thrived. And I knew that wherever my mother was, whatever came after death, she was proud of us. She was happy for us. She was at peace knowing that we were okay, that we had found our way through the darkness and into the light. The secret my father's new marriage had hidden was not something dark or shameful. It was something beautiful and hopeful and true. It was a secret that love never really ends. It just changes form. That families can be rebuilt. That healing is possible. That life goes on. And that is not betrayal of those we have lost, but a tribute to them, a way of honoring their memory by living fully and loving deeply and opening our hearts to all the possibilities that life has to offer. We learned that secret the hard way, through pain and struggle and years of difficult growth. But we learned it together, and that made all the difference. We learned it as a family, this strange, beautiful, patchwork family that had been stitched together by loss and love, and the simple choice to keep trying, to keep showing up, to keep loving even when it was hard. And in the end, that was the greatest gift my father's new marriage gave us. Not a replacement for what we had lost, but a reminder that love is infinite, that the heart can always expand to hold more, that there's always room for one more person at the table, one more story in the family history, one more thread in the tapestry of our lives. Sweet Home was not the house we grew up in, the one filled with memories of my mother. It was not the new house my father bought with Patricia, the one that felt so wrong at first. Sweet Home was wherever we were together, all of us, the living and the dead, the old family and the new, the past and the present and the future, all woven together into something beautiful and strong and unbreakable. That was the secret. That was what we learned only after the final argument, after all the tears and the fights and the painful conversations. We learned that home is not a place. It is people. It is love. It is a choice to keep showing up, to keep trying, to keep building something beautiful out of the broken pieces. And we did build something beautiful. We built a family that honored the past while embracing the future. We built a home that had room for grief and joy, for old memories and new traditions, for the mother who was gone and the woman who had come to help us heal. We built a life that my mother would have been proud of, that she would have blessed, that she would have wanted for us. As the years continued to pass, as Grace grew older and we added more grandchildren to the family, as my father and Patricia grew old together, as Marcus's art became famous and my therapy practice flourished, we carried that secret with us. We shared it with our children, teaching them that love is not limited, that families come in all shapes and sizes, that the heart is big enough for all of it. And whenever we gather together, all of us, the whole extended family, we would raise our glasses and toast the family, to love, to the journey that had brought us here. We would toast to my mother, whose love had given us a foundation to build on. We would toast to Patricia, whose patience and persistence had helped us heal. We would toast to my father, who had been brave enough to love again. We would toast to Marcus and me, who had learned to open our hearts even when it hurt. We would toast to all of us, this beautiful, messy, imperfect family that had been forged in the fires of grief and had come out stronger on the other side. Sweet Home, we learned, was not about perfection. It was not about replacing what was lost or pretending the pain never happened. Sweet Home was about acceptance and forgiveness and the courage to keep loving even after loss. It was about making space for new people without forgetting the old ones. It was about honoring the past while building the future. It was about understanding that the heart is infinite, that love is infinite, that there is always room for more. That was the secret my father's new marriage hid. Not a scandal or a betrayal, but a truth so profound it took us years to understand it. The truth that love never really ends. It just transforms. The truth that families can be broken and rebuilt and still be whole. The truth that healing is possible, that happiness is possible, that life goes on, and that is not a tragedy, but a gift. We learn that truth together, through tears and laughter, through fights of forgiveness, through the slow, painful, beautiful process of becoming a family. And in learning it, we became more than we ever could have been alone. We became proof that love is stronger than loss, that hope is stronger than grief, that the human heart is capable of holding more than we ever imagined possible. And so, when people ask me about my family, about my father's marriage to Patricia, about how we made it work, I tell them the truth. I tell them it was not easy. I tell them there were times we wanted to give up, times we thought it would never work, times we hurt each other and ourselves. But I also tell them that it was worth it. Every tear, every fight, every painful conversation was worth it to get to where we are now, to have this family, this love, this life. I tell them that the secret is simple, even if living it is hard. The secret is to keep showing up, to keep trying, to keep loving even when it hurts, to make space in your heart for new people without pushing out the old ones, to honor the past while embracing the future, to understand that love is not a finite resource, but an infinite one, always growing, always expanding, always making room for more. That is what my father's new marriage taught us. That is the secret we learned only after the final argument, after all the pain and struggle and growth. And it is a secret I will carry with me for the rest of my life, a secret I will pass on to my children and grandchildren, a secret that has the power to heal and transform and make whole. Sweet Home is not a place. It is not a person. It is not a memory or a dream or a fantasy of what could have been. Sweet Home is a choice to love, to forgive, to accept, to grow. Sweet Home is a family we build together, brick by brick, day by day, through all the joy and pain and everything in between. Sweet Home is wherever we are together, all of us, the living and the dead, the old and the new, the past and the present and the future, all woven together into something beautiful and strong and eternal. That is the secret. That is the truth. That is what we learned, and that is what we became. A family, a home, a testament to the power of love to heal and transform and make whole. And I am grateful, so grateful, for every moment of the journey, for every person who's been part of it, for every lesson learned and every tear shed and every laugh shared. This is our story. This is our truth. This is our sweet home.